What's happening, everybody? On today's show, some surprising stats from across the SEC after 3 weeks into the season. We'll also take an early look at the SEC Week 4 games this weekend. Our buddy Chris Marler is going to join us, and we'll get a quick thought from him on the 2023 SEC schedule that just dropped. Locked on SEC starts right now.
Are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. We'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at LockedOnSEC.com. Let's jump into it as we do this time every week. We welcome in our buddy Chris Marler, host of the Locked On, or rather the College Football Uncensored podcast. I got Locked On the brain. College Football Uncensored podcast, telling it like it is. And Marler, we normally do overreactions. That's what we did the first couple weeks of the season. But as I started digging through some stats, man, there are some weird stats that stand out 3 weeks into the year. So I figured we would run through some of those with you.
Love it. I mean, overreactions are kind of my sweet spot, but this is fine too. I love stats and I love some deep dives. So let's get into it.
All right, let's start here. Surprising week 3 stats 3 weeks into the SEC football season. First up, Bryce Young is 7th in the SEC in passing yards, settled somewhere between Spencer Rattler and Brady Cook. Marler, is that just a product of unbalanced competition through the first 3 weeks, or should we be concerned the reigning Heisman Trophy winner just isn't throwing for a ton of yards yet?
So first thing I'm going to do, and this has just been a constant theme this week, is pat myself on the back, because if you listen to College Football Uncensored, you listen to any of the SDS videos I made, I said, absolutely hammer Bryce Young under his passing yard total before the season because of all a year ago to get to that number, and he's not even close. I'm not super concerned. I mean, you still got Arkansas on the schedule, who has the worst pass defense in the country. The biggest concern for me is some of the play calling in terms of, well, I think they've been a little bit too cute with it, and I think they also have had a difficult time replacing two. They're not two generational receivers, but one was with Jefferson Williams. I wonder how that looks like in terms of stretching the field more, because they have not done a good job of that, like on deep balls, trying to really. That's the main concern.
The other stat that stood out to me in terms of quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, who everybody was jumping all over week 1 against Utah, currently ranks dead last in the SEC in passing yards and 0 passing touchdowns. Usually not what you want out of your starting quarterback. Should Gator fans be concerned about Anthony Richardson?
Yes. He has the lowest QBR of any FBS quarterback in the state of Florida.
Wow.
Absolutely. Haven't thrown a passing touchdown. How is that possible? Because they've been putting up a decent amount of points in some of those games. It's one thing to say, the Kentucky defense, he threw 2 bad interceptions, and I wouldn't be concerned there. But you've had 3 straight home games. You've been at home for 3 straight weeks where it's only going to get more difficult. I would absolutely be concerned that they're going to need him to pull a miracle, to pull off a miracle this week against Tennessee at Tennessee.
I don't know how much you buy into QBR, quarterback rating, but do you know who leads the SEC in QBR right now?
Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, 183 is Stetson Bennett's QBR.
Yeah, Stetson Bennett's the best quarterback in America right now. I mean, I said this going into the year, and people thought I was crazy, but I remember going on to I forgot which radio show it was. I think it was out of Ruston, Louisiana. And they were asking me who has the best chance of winning the Heisman out of the SEC, and I was like, it would be Stetson Bennett, because I don't think Bryce is going to get it again, just based off what we've seen from past winners that come back to school. But that offense they put up some yards, man, and they attack you every which way possible.
The other thing, KJ Jefferson and Hendon Hooker are right behind Stetson in terms of
Right.
QBR in the SEC. Bennett also leads the conference in completion percentage at 73.8%. Like,
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy about that too is like you look at his numbers for passing yards because he's second in the SEC in passing yards, right?
yeah.
Like he's second in the SEC in passing yards, but he also had like a significant attempts than Will Rogers, who's number one.
Another statistic that stood out to me, Arkansas running back Rocket Sanders not only leads the SEC in rushing, but he is fourth in the nation in rushing at 440 rushing yards. That's 80 yards better than the next best rusher in the SEC, which is
Wow.
Ramon Davis at Vandy. Rocket Sanders, absolutely crazy. But here's the crazy stat that stands out to me. The top 5 leading rushers in the SEC, Marler, Rocket Sanders 1, Ramon Davis 2, Ole Miss Zach Evans 3, Ole Miss Quinshawn Judkins 4, and Vandy backup quarterback Mike Wright 5. Tank Bigsby is 7th, Devon Achane is 10th, and Jahmyr Gibbs is 19th. Never would have
Yeah.
thought that 3 weeks into the season.
No, especially with the Jahmyr Gibbs thing, I thought that was going to be a bigger focal point for Bama. The Zach Evans thing, I fully agree with that. And you look at a 2-headed monster, sometimes 3-headed monster in rushing. I guess the one thing I am surprised about is that he wouldn't be higher, and he's so far back. Because if you looked at just from Saturday, what Ole Miss did to Georgia Tech, I mean, 24 of their first 28 play calls were rushing plays or run plays, and they just that's all they did was just eat up ground and eat up rushing yards against Georgia Tech, which like. Tech's an inferior opponent. If you see something where you could have like a large upper hand in, then you absolutely want to exploit that. I just didn't know that was the one area that they were going to go after because there's so many of them with Georgia Tech.
Another note on Texas A&M, Devon Achane. I really like him, but he's not been able to get going yet. A&M ranks 122nd in rushing yards per game. I had to look back because that's Jimbo's bread and butter. Last year, they were 44th in the nation in rushing. The year before, they were 26th in the nation in rushing. Right now, they're 122. A&M's got to get that figured out.
You expect that to get better, but at the same time, do you not? Because the other concern for me is that the quarterback and their offense in general, you put up – this is a Miami team that was ranked a country in passing yards per attempt allowed. It was almost per attempt allowed from that defense. And that was against like Bethune-Cookman and somebody else. It's not it wasn't like a murderer's row of opponents they had played. And you bring in Max Johnson, and what does he do? He goes 10 of 20 for like 140 yards, just still very, very middle of the road. It's just confusing to watch.
More crazy stats in passing yards allowed per game. You kind of hinted at it. The Arkansas Razorbacks rank dead last in not just the SEC, but all of college football, allowing 352 passing yards per game through the air. I mean, look, how concerned should Arkansas fans be about that stat?
So I wish I had the numbers in front of me to support this because I know it's true. But Barry Odom has gotten us like a pass for years now as the Arkansas defensive coordinator, and I'm not really sure why. Like it's not like they've ever finished super high in the SEC. They've never finished, I don't believe, in the top 5 in the SEC in any statistical category in since he's been there. So what is it that he's doing that we're like? I mean, he's a couple of 6-year seniors away from getting torched. There's a lot of leadership that he inherited, I think, on that team. I don't get it. I would absolutely be concerned. And here's the thing with Arkansas fans, what you don't understand is because they're 3-0 and they're ranked in the top 10, all that kind of stuff, and it will absolutely come like tumbling down here soon. But you still got to play Bama. You still got to play BYU at BYU. You got A&M this weekend. There's that. I just enjoy it while you can, man.
On the flip side, by the way, Bama leads the SEC in least amount of passing yards given up per game, but you would expect that in the teams they've played. But on the flip side, now you just berated Barry Odom. Arkansas leads not just the SEC, but all of college football in sacks with 17. Ole Miss is 4th overall with 13 sacks. How weird is it to have the worst passing defense, but a defensive front just racking up a ton of sacks?
That is nuts. And I wish you would have told me that before I went on that tangent, for sure. No, I think it's almost like I should have come prepared. No, I think that I get it. That's great, and they've been able to put some pressure on quarterbacks, and you saw them especially in the Cincinnati game. They were getting in the backfield a lot. Is that sustainable? I don't know. It is against Bama for sure because that offensive line has been pretty bad. There's a few other teams in the SEC. Auburn is another one that is definitely sustainable against. That is bizarre. It's bizarre. But by the way, I will say this: one team that we're absolutely not giving enough credit, a big enough deal out of like what they've been able to do is Ole Miss, because all the areas that they're excelling in are the areas that we didn't necessarily think that they would. Defense, I mean, they've allowed, I think, 13 points all year.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been very, very. What is
the
it?
schedule has been very kind to Ole Miss so
Yeah,
far.
for
But
sure. But
no,
they've
you're
also
right.
been able to be pretty dominant on defense, like early on. And like I tell you what, from a gambling standpoint, I keep telling you guys, like hammer them in the first quarter and hammer them in the first half, because it's been free money.
By the way, for Arkansas, Drew Sanders leads them in the SEC with 6 sacks. So
wow, in 3 games?
Way to let him get out of Alabama. Will Anderson tied for 5th in the league with 2 sacks. So, but those numbers are, those are going to start going up very soon. Arkansas also number 1 in the SEC in stopping the run, 68 rush yards per game. So they give up a ton
I really wish you would have fucking told me this.
But they stopped the run at an amazing rate. So maybe this has more to do with what Cincinnati, South Carolina, and Missouri State were doing offensively against them. Do you know who is dead last in the SEC in sacks, team-wise?
Auburn. They have 0.
No, Auburn actually has a couple. Well, if you count Mercer and,
No, I had just pulled it up beforehand, and wow. Georgia has 1 sack.
The Georgia Bulldogs that everyone is saying is the most unstoppable force, number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
They have 1 sack. It was Michael Williams in the Samford game. So maybe sacks an overrated stat, right? Like,
right.
Georgia's last, Arkansas's 1, yet we're saying what's wrong with Arkansas's defense, and Georgia looks unstoppable.
Yeah, that's fair. Georgia does look unstoppable, though. So,
what another weird stat? We're almost through our stats here. Do you know who leads the SEC in receiving yards, Marler? What receiver?
Oh man, it's not Brock Bowers. It's not Ladd McConkey.
It's Vanderbilt's Will Shepard, of course. Mizzou's Dominic Lovett is 2nd. Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee is 3rd. Aniyah Smith is 4th, and Cedric Tillman from Tennessee is 5th. I just want to point this out. Wide receivers that were on the preseason all-conference teams.
Yeah.
Kayshon Boutte at LSU, he's 33rd with 93 yards so far. Jermaine Burton was preseason all-conference. He is in the 50s with 61 total yards through 3 games.
Yeah, whoever threw him in there as voted him in the first team is an idiot. And I'll just say that as a member of the media that was a part of that vote, you're an idiot if you did.
And 2 other guys, Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss. He's not bad. He's 11th overall in the SEC with 203 yards. And then the other one, the weird one, Josh Vann from South Carolina. He's been a little banged up, but 2 catches for 8 yards. That guy was selected preseason all-conference by a lot of second team, third team, whatever, but pretty crazy. And then the last one, stat I'll throw in here, leading tacklers in the league. No surprise there. Vandy's Anthony Orji, Florida's Trey Dean, Bumper Pool, and Drew Sanders at Arkansas. So that was the only one that I looked at. Well, that one makes sense.
How many total tackles? Because I know Jalen Moody's got he leads for Bama, but he only has 22.
It's a lot. I didn't write down the numbers, but yeah, I mean, but some of those stats just absolutely crazy. Again, we're 3 weeks in. If we get 3 more weeks in and some of those numbers are still looking weird, I think we're going to have some big issues with some of these teams in the SEC.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, you got to fire Saban for sure.
He is our buddy Chris Marler. We're going to get into looking at the games here in week 4 in just a second. But thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. I want to remind you guys, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you got to check out our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can just go to their website, you add your job in the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates that you want to hire with the right skills and expertise that you are looking for. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, continuing on here with our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast. And Marler, it's time to start turning the page and taking an early look ahead to SEC Week 4. And we'll start with some games that are not expected to be very competitive. So just give me a quick thought on each of these. Number one, Georgia hosts Kent State Saturday morning on ESPN+.
Georgia's going to win by 1,000. That, like, I did love this on Georgia radio here this week, where Kent State's coach has said this is the greatest team ever. And if there's anyone that could be the judge of talent on who the greatest football team ever would be, it'd definitely be the effing head coach at Kent State. So congrats to Georgia for winning the national title in September.
Can't read, can't ride, can't state. I believe that's what they say there. Bowling Green visits Mississippi State Saturday morning on the SEC Network. What a sleeper for Mike Leach's bunch coming off an emotional loss at LSU.
I am so tired of seeing Bowling Green in their crap ass colors of blue, or was it brown and orange? I mean, just put me to sleep. Like, what is that? That just, if you want to see a 70s shag carpet living room come to life, then look no further than the Bowling Green. What are they? I'm stupid. That would make sense because all Eagles fly.
Yeah, State should bounce back in this one.
Yeah.
Get Will Rogers right. Interesting, Tulsa is at number 16 Ole Miss Saturday afternoon on the SEC Network. Somebody pointed out to me that Ole Miss, or rather Tulsa, has one of the more high-flying offenses in all of college football.
Yeah, but you should definitely jump on it because it's like, I almost wonder if you're in a little bit of a situation where you might want to, there's value on Tulsa, just because who does Ole Miss have next week? Don't they have like a pretty big game?
Kentucky.
Yeah, I think that is a, I don't know. That's like Kiffin is wary enough of what to put on tape for a game like that against Kentucky, especially it's homecoming. So I would probably hear, even though I don't know what the line is.
Speaking of Kentucky,
but still.
Number 8 Kentucky will host Northern Illinois, who's still licking their wounds after that loss to Vanderbilt. That will be Saturday.
14-point lead.
That'll be Saturday night on ESPN2. The only thing I want to point out here, and Kentucky should be fine in this one, but Ole Miss is number 16. Kentucky's number 8. If a few teams lose in front of them, that game next week could be like a matchup of two top 15 teams, and it's on 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern on SEC Network. Like, how that game didn't get prime time is crazy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think so. I mean, Kentucky just kind of like ho-hum doing what they do. I thought last week was actually really, really big just in terms of, I know it was a 31-0 win against Youngstown State, right? Which is like what you're supposed to do against Youngstown State. Maybe put up some more points, but I like the fact they didn't allow a single point and player from the other team in that end zone. I think that's huge. So
I'm going to make a really disgusting face here as I read this one. 1-3 Charlotte is at 1-2 South Carolina Saturday night on ESPN.
Well, Charlotte's not a bad program. They've been to a bowl game. They're very, very early in that. Like, Beamer needs to come out and put somebody away in the first quarter or first half, like, and shut everyone up. And Satterfield is bad as the OC, but at some point, like, listen, I know that he had a little trick up in his back pocket last week when he had 300 sorority girls just filing through the back of the end zone on that trick play he tried to call. But I mean, like, if you're Beamer, you have to come out at some point and put your foot on someone's neck early and then call it a day.
Yeah, their fake punt worked against Georgia. Just nothing else worked against Georgia. So 2-1 New Mexico is at 2-1 LSU. This is just a primer for LSU to prepare for their road trip to Auburn next week, although I don't know if they're going to need much prep work for that one.
Oh, excuse me. No. I tell you what, like, you just perked up my ears with what you said about Auburn in general, just because there's so much happening down there on the plains right now that this is going to be very exciting to see. LSU, it's funny that the people from the land of enchantment, which is this is an actual thing that they call the state of New Mexico, get to go down to Baton Rouge. Because if you want to talk about enchantment, you just walk around a couple of them cauldrons full of like food that I can't pronounce. You're going to have a blast. Take LSU to cover for sure. Whatever that is, LSU should win big. I saw a stat that real quick. We're spending too much time on this. It's my fault. But Jaden Daniels is the leading rusher in the country in all of FBS when it comes to, several stats that PFF College said were important. Broken tackles, 10-plus yard runs, first downs, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, those PFF stats, it's like when leading in the third quarter on a Sunday with a blood moon,
Right.
this is the
With the
leading
blood
left
moon.
tackle. He's got a grade of 90.1. And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know what any of that means. I'm just going to say.
I'll never forget Cole Cuba coming on our podcast and saying, he's like, yeah, I don't, but like, what the does that mean? 90 out of what? 91.3 out of what? That's just so good.
All right, let's get into the SEC slate. We're going to start with the two crappier games here, and we'll get to the good ones after this. 3-1 Vandy, 3-1 Vandy at number 2 Alabama. Bama 40.5-point favorites from our friends at BetOnline.
Vandy is going to have some broken play touchdowns here in this game, and I can't wait to see what they look like. If
Probably
you're
on Eli
Bama,
Briggs.
yeah, well, it's like if you're Vandy, you've already covered your season win total, by the way, which is awesome. Go to Tuscaloosa, a place you haven't really fared well there. I don't think they've ever beaten Bama in Tuscaloosa since I think they did it once when Bear Bryant was there. I've seen them play there multiple times. That's how some of the games that we saw when I was like little growing up. But I mean, no, you look at Vandy going in there. They've got like Mike Wright. I thought was the answer at quarterback. He's actually been benched, and you have was it what?
Yeah, he looked good, and now they've gone to AJ Swan, who he looked really good this past week.
And I tell you what, like we joke around about Vandy all you want. You go on the road as an underdog. I don't give a shit who you're playing. You go on the road as an underdog and you go play Northern Illinois and you're down 28-14. There are a lot of Vandy teams that would have rolled over and died and in that situation, and they didn't. And as much as we love to give Vandy a hard time, you got to give them credit for that because that is not the easiest situation to be in. And they could have, gone in there feeling sorry for themselves and all that good stuff, but they didn't. So do they win this week? No, they'll get trounced by Bama. But also, if you're Bama, all you're looking for is some more explosive plays in the passing game and also no injuries.
Bama leads the all-time series, by the way, 59, 19, and 4. So 4 times.
You know who Auburn has I just gave it away. You know who Vandy has a winning record against all time?
It's at Auburn, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Probably not a ton of meetings, though, right? I don't know.
No, but still.
We'll get to that game whenever it happens. All right, the other crappy game in the conference this week, and it is, speaking of Auburn, 2-1 Missouri at 2-1 Auburn. Auburn's around a touchdown favorite. This is the Brian Harsin fireable offense game. If he loses this game, Brian Harsin will not be the Auburn head coach by Monday.
No, he won't be the head coach by Saturday night. Here's the thing about it. He's gone.
The game on Saturday night.
I mean, he's gone. He is. We had Justin Hogan from Auburn Live, and we talked about this like last week before the game. And was like, it's Penn State. Is he off a hot seat? He's like, no, he will still lose his job. Like that's before. I mean, like I don't care how much of a millicop you want to look like. I mean, he's a fantastic looking specimen. Okay, but at the same time, he's not been a very good football coach, and now he's doing this whole thing where he's like kind of like talking down to the media about how dumb they are. And it's like,
right.
I mean, listen, here's the thing. So TJ Finley
is something out. I don't know. You know something I don't know? That's what he said.
Yeah, probably so, coach. It seems like I know a lot of things you don't know. How to recruit, maybe for one, how to get along well with these players. So Brian Harsin, they announced today, and they didn't want to. I got a text from my buddy saying TJ Finley's out. It is not going to be announced because they don't want Missouri to know. A couple hours later, you get a message you get a tweet circulating all over Twitter from some Auburn beat reporters. TJ Finley's out. It's like, cool. So now Robbie Ashford, it's going to be his time to shine at the quarterback position. I don't know if Zach Calzada slept with one of the Kardashians, as I saw in a tweet, which was a tweet. But I just you got to wonder how. I think Robbie Ashford is the only quarterback capable of eluding and evading the rush and also not injured.
Yeah, it is correct. I mean, Zach Calzada is in the witness protection program. With all this bad quarterback play, he's nowhere to be found. By the way, Auburn leads the all-time series in this matchup with Mizzou 2-1. So Mizzou can even up that all-time series with Auburn. All right, we're going to grab a quick break. When we come back, we will get into previewing the other two big games in the SEC this weekend, as well as some quick thoughts on the 2023 SEC schedule. More with Chris Marler in just a second. I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remind you guys that betonline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football needs and sports information throughout the season. We're talking some of these games. We're talking the betting lines that are already up at BetOnline. So if you head on over there, you will see those odds for all the games happening this weekend. They're going to have a good bit of the big games are all there. Some of these lesser matchups with those big crooked point spreads, those might not necessarily be available, but head on over to BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way for you to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including college football, the NFL. They've got you covered on everything. Head on over to their website today. You can do so on your mobile device. I always tell you, bookmark it on your phone. Should be the first place you go to, particularly Saturday mornings when you're looking to get in on the action, looking to get the latest information on all the lines and everything. BetOnline is the place to go. They are BetOnline, and it is where the game starts. Our final segment with our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast joins us every week around this time. Marler, two big ones to get into in the SEC this weekend. We'll start with the CBS Game of the week. It is number 20 Florida at number 11 Tennessee. Vols are over a 10-point favorite. They're around 10.5 points on BetOnline right now. But look, this is a rivalry game. This is one that Florida has dominated a lot in recent years. And I have two friends, one who's a diehard Florida fan, one who's a diehard Tennessee fan, and neither of them feel confident about this game. The Florida fan, obviously, you get why he doesn't feel confident because Anthony Richardson looked terrible. The Tennessee fans, there's a big contingent of them who are just like, they always have their number. Richardson's going to have his best game of the year. We're talking all bad about. I don't know if it's defeatist syndrome or what, but
it is.
You know, there's a lot of Vol fans who are not confident about this game.
Yeah, so, and that's hilarious to me because they're going to beat Florida. They're going to beat them like a drum. And like, listen, you were talking about BetOnline earlier. It's not necessarily who I placed these bets with last week, but I will in the future, especially because I'm a big fan and supporter of the show. But your boy went 14-2 last week in his bets. And if I tell you what I would be betting on this, Tennessee to score first, and Tennessee to win the first quarter and first half, whatever those numbers are, I haven't even looked at them yet. But when you look at like the Tennessee team that like their whole MO is to jump on people early, and especially with Florida, if you're Tennessee, this does not need to be a situation where you're neck and neck in the fourth quarter. I remember saying this last year when Bama was playing Georgia, because Bama should have been about a 2-touchdown underdog to them in Atlanta. And I was like, you have to put them in a situation that they haven't been in before, yet they also have been in several times. And that is, you know, get a lead on them at halftime and then you know, start getting in that psyche, because Tennessee is a beaten dog. And they have lost like 16 of the past 17 or something like that to Florida. They should win this like handily or handedly. I don't handily. Hypily. Happily, what the fuck ever. Excuse my language. But so they should win this game easily, and they should definitely win this game going away. When you talk about how, sorry about the bleep button, that's my bad. So when you talk about like going like what we saw last week against the South Florida team, it's that bad. Like, I mean, you put the picture up here. Like, how does this happen? Florida almost lost to a quarterback named Jerry Bohannon, and Jerry Bohannon hasn't won anything except for Yard of the Month in Parkside Manor for the past 15 effing years. Like, what are we talking about?
No, again, like it feels like this is one. Look, is Tennessee back? That's what people were asking last year. This is the Tennessee is back game. This is, you are absolutely, you're a top 20 team. Go act like it. Take out your frustrations in a rivalry game on the team that is in a transition period. We all think Billy Napier is going to be good eventually, but go take care of business.
Yeah, agreed.
By the way, Florida leads the all-time series 31-20. So, they have dominated this series. The other big one of the weekend is number 10 Arkansas versus number 23 Texas A&M in Dallas. A&M is a 2-point favorite, Marler. Like, have we talked about this game a week ago at this time, we would have been like, oh, Arkansas is going to steamroll. A&M's got no quarterback play. They look like crap. Suddenly, A&M beats Miami. Arkansas struggles with Missouri State. Suddenly, A&M's a favorite? What am I missing?
I don't know. I don't know. What's the over-under?
It's probably I would say a lot, but A&M's offense hasn't been very
If
good.
it's over 45, I would be shocked. Or 50 even. But like, God, this is tough, man. So here's the thing. Arkansas, by all means, should win this game. They've lost like 6 of the past 7. They had, like the game last year against them was the first time they had won, and that was mainly because KJ Jefferson hit 2 broken plays to Traylon Burks. I just have a feeling that this A&M team is better than we think. I still think that Arkansas is a good team, but you're talking about you're kind of feeding into like what the strength of that A&M team is, and that's their defense. I mean, like now, granted, their pass defense is, I think, the strength of that team. I mean that defense. I mean, you saw it last week. I mean, they gave up. I'm trying to think. Like he had like 21 attempts or he's like 21 of 40 for like 217 yards. I mean, that is like the yards per attempt. They were leading. They were third in the country at giving up less than 4 yards per attempt, which is crazy. I don't see Arkansas taking the ball out of Rockets' hands or KJ Jefferson as well. Like run the football. You don't have to keep that A&M offense off the field. Maybe you want to actually put them on the field with how bad they've been. But yeah, I mean, who are you going to take? I don't know. I'm so confused by this line.
I think Arkansas was caught in a look-ahead spot. They were looking ahead to this game and figured, Bobby Petrino, Missouri State, we don't have to put effort. There is some talk maybe Miles Slusher will be back in the secondary, so that will help there. But, yeah, I mean, A&M, you got to prove it to me. This is a prove-it game for A&M. Dude, are you the team that lost to App State, or are you the team that beat Miami and, hey, we're a legit team and, hey, we're trying to still compete for the SEC West? Because that's the other thing, too, is we overreact so much. If A&M wins a lot of these games down the road, they're still going to play for something. Like everything they want is still ahead of them. Now, I don't know if they'll win in Tuscaloosa in a few weeks unless they dramatically change how they look, but you know what I mean? Like everything's still ahead of them. So that could change. Who'd you pick? Who's your pick? I'm taking Arkansas.
I'm going to take A&M because Vegas must know something.
Yeah. And Jimbo's going to bounce back and everybody's going to be like, there's Jimbo and A&M.
Right.
All right, Marler, before we get out of here, the SEC released their 2023 schedule. I just wanted to run through some takeaways. One, it's stupid that we're here in the middle of getting ready for week 4. And now we're like, and hey, here's the whole schedule for next year. And SEC Network's like running through every game. And I'm like, we should be talking about the games this week. What are we doing looking ahead? But a few notes here. I just want to run through a couple of teams. Alabama, what stood out to me of their schedule. Texas comes to Tuscaloosa week 2, obviously the return trip. And Bama has to go to Kentucky in November. Those are 2 very interesting games for Bama.
Yeah. No, it's difficult, I think, in some difficult because you don't have a layup before you play Auburn. And you're not really used to that. So that'll be interesting to see what that looks like. See where that program is at that point, because Will Levis will definitely be going at the same time. So are they both playing for something at that point of the season? Because you would assume Kentucky probably isn't. But it doesn't mean that they won't be playing with a chip on their shoulder against Bama, especially at home at Kroger Field. Nobody goes into Kroger Field with shoes on, is what I mean. Maybe that's just actual Kroger. I don't know. But either way, we'll see how it goes.
That's why they call it K. Roger Field. Arkansas, they host BYU in a non-conference, a return trip for them. They go to LSU in September.
I hate that. 23rd. That's the biggest travesty of the entire effing thing, besides the Georgia thing, and we'll get to in a second, I don't care how old this makes me sound or how stupid or whatever, but like that game was made for one thing and one thing only, and that was tryptophan and turkey Thanksgiving effing leftovers. And this is bullcrap. They're playing the same in September. Like at the very least, you need to have a coach in long sleeves. Like, that is absurd.
Yeah. That's what I always think of. I think of LSU Arkansas when it's cold. It's going to be damn hot when they play a game. Other thing with Arkansas, they finished with 3 straight home games to finish the year: Auburn, FIU, and Mizzou. So if Arkansas is looking good next year, that's a pretty easy stretch of 1-3 wins. One note on Auburn's schedule: I saw they go to Cal week 2. That's a weird trip. Going to be weird to see new Auburn coach Deion Sanders coaching that game. So.
Yeah, you wonder how Nebraska head coach Brian Harsin will be doing in that second week when they go out to Cal. Cal's actually fared pretty well when they've played SEC teams. I will tell you, that is a sleepy stadium. I went there a year ago with someone that I'll never go there again with. And I remember going into that stadium and they were doing it's just a bowl. It's just a bowl. And it's the most bizarre situation because it's like it kind of pops up out of nowhere and you get there. And on one side, you have like a bunch of these, like, I don't know if they're redwoods or evergreens or what the hell ever kind of trees they are, coniferous, things I can't spell. And they're in one end of the end zone. And then you look at the other end zone and you see the Golden Gate Bridge, just like, out in the distance. It's a crazy, very nice campus.
A few other quick ones. Florida, they go to Utah in week 1, so that's the return trip there. They go at LSU in November. So how LSU's getting Arkansas early, they're getting Florida late in the year. That game maybe it means something next year. We'll see in November. We got to talk about Georgia. Not only is their schedule just totally weak because they lost Oklahoma, replaced them with Ball State, but the home slate sucks. Here's Georgia's home slate next year. UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina, UAB, Kentucky, Mizzou, Ole Miss. Georgia's going undefeated this year and probably next year too.
The Ole Miss thing I get, and I fully understand. Like, this is, I've of course popped off on the mouth of this on Twitter, like I always do, and then I was so enlightened from Georgia fans right away, because they are, I mean, as cavalier as they are with their arrogance, they are just as knowledgeable about everything football related. I always cease to forget that for some reason, but they inform me, this schedule was made in 2012, and that's why for the 12th consecutive year, Georgia will not play Texas A&M. And that's because the SEC had the foresight 12 years ago to make a schedule where only one team in the entire damn conference wasn't going to go to A&M, and that was Georgia. Here's the deal. Like, Georgia is the best team in the country right now and the best program in the country, and that's fine to say. And like, it doesn't mean that they would lose to A&M, and I understand A&M lost a week ago. Why are you, if you're in the business of selling a product, why are we denying everyone a good product? Like, you saw what happened last year when Bama went to Kyle Field. I'm not saying that Georgia's that all. Georgia probably goes in there and beats them by 21. But why are we being denied that event? You've played them once, and you played them at home in 2019. And you're talking about a Florida team is going to go play there for the third time. It's such a weird, just like, disparity in competition. I don't get it.
Yeah, Georgia play somebody. Hey, when Oklahoma and Texas get to the conference, you're going to play them every year. We're just going to make that permanent.
Yeah.
Couple quick hitters. LSU, they were due the return trip of Florida State in Orlando. My friends already texted me. Disney trip? No. The early Arkansas game, the late Florida game. That's odd. Ole Miss, they're at Georgia November 11th. We've already talked about that. That's the third to last game of the season, so that could derail the season if it's going well. But at Tulane week 2, Lane Kiffin needs to avoid getting into trouble that week. In New Orleans.
It's at New Orleans.
Yes.
I like that. I didn't even pick up on that.
Mississippi State, week 2, they do the return trip with Arizona. Mizzou, week 3, they do the return trip with Kansas State. Right. South Carolina opens with North Carolina and Charlotte. That's a fun one, but this stood out to me. South Carolina, 4 straight home games to finish the season. Jacksonville State, who they should beat. Vandy, who they should beat. Kentucky will be tough, and then, of course, Clemson to finish is tough. But at least you get the last 4 at home. Yeah,
and you also get a UNC team that has been struggling mightily this year. I wish that they had that schedule in year 2 with Beamer rather than year 3. So, but it's not like I don't think Spencer Rattler's going anywhere. So,
yeah. Hey, I'm leaving, Coach. Really, where are you going? Because you've already transferred, and the draft's not ready for you. So, he may be back. A few more for you. Tennessee, they open with Virginia in Nashville. That's an interesting one. Mm-hmm. And then in October, they host A&M. Then they're at Bama and at Kentucky. That is a brutal stretch for Josh Heupel's crew next year.
Brutal stretch. I love the A&M Tennessee matchup, though. Those are two fan bases that will not get along necessarily in that stadium, but that's a fun game between two like tradition-rich programs for sure.
A few more. We just talked about A&M. They get the return trip at Miami in week 2, so that's going to be tough for Jimbo and company. And then lastly, the one that highlighted the schedule. In fact, it was the first game I saw when the schedule came out. Vandy week 1 gets the return home game against Hawaii in week 0, Marler. Week 0. This is going to be – you laugh now, but come week 0 next year, you're going to be so amped up for this freaking game because it's week 0 and college football is back. You're going to be like, I'm all in on Vandy against Hawaii this time.
You know why I'm going to be amped up about it? Because it's not going to be a damn 10:30 start time like the one this year was.
Right. Well, it was kind of cool playing it late at night. But
yeah, that's fine.
All right.
No, it'll be fun. It'll be fun for sure.
That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Marler, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. As always, it's one of my favorite parts of the week. So Vern Funquist on Twitter, on Instagram, all that good stuff. Saturday Down South. I still do. I mean, I still work for SDS, obviously, but it'd be College Football Uncensored podcast. Follow CFB_uncensored on Twitter and as well on Instagram as well. Some good stuff there. We have a game day hotline, which is always a lot of fun. We get some crazies and some drunks and some fun phone calls out on game days and try to, be their therapist for about 2 or 3 minutes or so. So yeah, you'll make sure you go check that out.
He is Chris Marler. We'll talk to him again next week when he'll be a nervous wreck where Alabama will be preparing for an undefeated Arkansas team. So that'll be fun. Marler, we'll do it again next week, man. Thanks for the time.
Dude.
All right, that's Chris Marler of College Football Uncensored. This has been Locked On SEC. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. Now go make your second listen. Check out some of our other great podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network covering your team every day. We got you covered with Locked On Rebels, Locked On Florida, Locked On Bama, whoever it is that you're looking for. Chances are we got you covered with your favorite SEC team. I'm Chris Gordy. Y'all have a great day out there. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow right here on Locked On SEC.